All right, we're rolling. Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the Ted Show. This is my champagne and conversations, coffee and conversations, collaboration and conversations with my dear friend, the one and only, cheers, the one and only Walt Key, Mr. Hawaiian vibin'. We talk about whatever's on our mind. Most of it has to do with the real estate world in some way, shape, or form every week. And we've taken a couple of weeks sabbatical, but we are back. And I'm just excited to see you, Walt. How you doing today?
I am doing good. It's good to see you again, too. Sorry for the constant globe trotting that has kept us from being able to jump on for a little bit.
Globe trotting. I love that, though. That's good. That's good. All good stuff. All really good stuff.
For sure.
All right. So before we roll, obviously, anybody who's tuned in, not tuned in before, tell them a little bit about you.
It's just a schmuck in a Hawaiian shirt. That's it. There's nothing to tell. I'm just some guy that Ted pulled off the street and said, "I'm going to do this thing. Jump on with me."
I love the shirts, so of course.
Yeah, it's the shirts. It's all the shirts. Realtor, coach, published author, do a lot of fun stuff. I have a goal to help every single agent on the planet be better, one agent at a time. We live in an industry with an 87% statistical failure rate. I'm just trying to reduce that number as best I can. So we do a lot of events and challenges and coaching calls, and we just whatever we can do to help people, we're trying to do it.
And you do, and I can testify to that. You can find anything you ever wanted to know about Walt Key by going to his link tree, and that's scrolling across the bottom there. And also the hyperlink is in the body of this post, the show, so you can reach out to him and see all the amazing things that Walt does and gives back. That is for sure. So we decided that we wanted to have a show where we could talk about the things that are going on either in the world or around us that impact real estate or impact us in general. And so that's what we do every time we get on here and we talk about stuff. So give them a little bit about what's coming up, which we'll talk about next week. But you've got a couple of reports that are launching tomorrow.
Yeah, so I mean, they're not my reports, but 3 things to be tracking this week. If you're in the real estate space, lender, real estate agent, doesn't matter. You have to understand how the economic data drives the real estate market. You should be aware of this stuff. So 3 reports coming out this week that all of the economists, all of the talking heads will be looking for. Wednesday, we have the CPI report. That's Consumer Price Index. Like, what is the cost of our stuff, basically? So that's on Wednesday. The bean counters and the analysts are estimating that number year over year to be about 2.5%. So we'll watch and see what do the actual numbers come in. Is it better or worse? The stock market will respond accordingly. Bond market might respond accordingly. All of this data starts to aggregate in the brain of the Fed and helps them move the rudder one way or the other on what they do with interest rates, where are we at. So CPI reports on Wednesday. On Thursday, we have the initial jobless claims. The number that they are anticipating is around 242,000. So if those numbers are drastically different, it could have an impact, good or bad, on the market. And then on Friday, we have the consumer sentiment report, the preliminary. The consumer sentiment is basically a survey that is on a rated scale 1 to 100 on how does the average consumer feel like the economy is doing, the market is doing, right? Just things in general. What is the sentiment of the average consumer in our market? And the number they expect that to be is right around 55. Last report, I want to say that was 52.5. So they're anticipating a slight increase, a slight improvement. And again, if that number comes in drastically low, that means that the consumers are thinking it's worse than the analysts expected them to. That could have an impact. So those are the 3 reports to look out for this week. CPI report on Wednesday, initial jobless claims on Thursday, consumer sentiment on Friday. Those are not the only reports out there, but those 3 reports specifically this week feed into the thought process of the larger economy, the Fed. What do they do with interest rates? So it's just good to know what those are. It's good to research them, watch them. The reports can get a little nerdy, but just hit the headlines, right? Hit the basics, and you can talk to your clients about why things are happening based on the actual data and not some speculation.
Yeah, so we'll have a lot to chat about next week with all of those being released this week. So let's talk about before we went live. You've got something on your mind, and that's what we like to talk about.
My goodness, I'll do my best not to get on a soapbox.
So timely. So share what's happening.
Yeah. So let me just start with the very frank statement. Business is still happening. I'll save you the whole backstory about the conversation I was having with another agent who was all doom and gloom and misaligned, and her mindset was all off. Bottom line, business is still happening. So do your best not to put yourself in a mental loop of absolutes. What I was saying on my accountability call for my 100K challenge today is the real estate market does not exist in absolutes. There's never going to be a time where nobody's buying, nobody's selling, everybody's waiting. That's just never going to be the case.
Nope.
And all of that does, it just puts you in this negative mental loop that keeps you from going out there and taking the action that you need to take to grow your business. I'll use myself as a quick example. I don't do as much real estate as I used to, but I still do real estate because a coach that doesn't do real estate, right? A coach got to know the game, right? I have 3 closings this week.
Woo.
One of those closings was because I proactively reached out to a for sale by owner. I had a great conversation. It is not my listing. I brought the buyer. We're closing a deal. I'm getting paid. I don't know why agents aren't willing to do that, but most are scared to talk to a FSBO. Go add real value. Go bring a real buyer. Market their property to drum up new buyers for you.
Yeah.
Go close deals. So that one's happening. That's a for sale by owner relationship. Another one is a first-time home buyer that was referred to me by another agent. I'm always out helping agents. So when people see someone that needs something in my market, they say, Walt, who do you got in that market? Sometimes I hand it to a different person. Sometimes it makes sense for me. This is a first-time home buyer that we're closing. And then the third, actually, this customer, this is great friends of mine now, they came to me through Facebook Marketplace marketing because I was marketing a for sale by owner that I reached out to, and they became a buyer client of mine. Now, we didn't wind up buying that particular FSBO. We wound up finding another house, but I closed the buyer transaction, and then I listed their property, and the listing closes this week.
It's amazing.
People need help.
Yes, they do.
Sellers got to sell. Buyers got to buy. The market is still moving. Is it slower than it used to be 2 years ago? Sure. We are getting more towards a balanced market where people actually have to work. Sorry, you're a business owner. You're going to do some work. But if you're willing to do the work, there are so many great ways to drum up business in this market that costs you absolutely nothing, and you will close great deals. Those are just 3 examples from this week specifically. 2 of those 3, most people have never even thought about doing.
No, but you talk about that.
Call a FSBO, but don't ask for the listing. Close deals anyway.
You teach
Go to
that.
Facebook Marketplace. I do. I teach all of these. These are so simple, and I teach them in my 100K challenge. I teach them sometimes as independent courses that we do. It's just a couple of dozens of ways to drum up business that cost you nothing. You're not paying referral fees. You're not spending money you haven't made yet on stupid lead generation that's not going to pan out.
Oh, Lord.
You're just building relationships. You're adding value, but you're proactively generating your business. You can't sit around and wait for business to come to you.
Why do you think people are stuck? And let me clarify that. I find most of the realtors I speak to are still trying to do things the way that they've always done them. And that doesn't mean basics. That means the way that they've done them in the last several, let's say 5 years of, especially starting back COVID. Yeah. And they can't figure out why what they did then isn't working now, or isn't working as effectively as it did then. Can you talk to that or speak to that? Because I hear it all the time. Well, I've got 11 listings, Ted. Okay, you've got 11 listings. None of them are moving. Yeah. Okay, if you had open house, like I start asking questions. Yeah. Well, you didn't have to used to do open houses because you had 50 offers over market price, sales price. So talk a little bit about that, because I think people are stuck and they don't know how to get out, or maybe they just choose not to. What's your thought process?
They choose not to for the most part. I will say that some generally don't know. Their broker doesn't teach them. That's a fair, assessment. But most people are so afraid of uncertainty that they will sit idle in a losing proposition rather than go try something new, break out of their comfort zone, do something that someone showed. Like I could literally pound my head. I can show someone all of the success I have with for sale by owners. I can give them my script on how to talk to for sale by owners. I can give them my resources to share with the for sale by owner to do deals.
Yes.
They won't call the for sale by owner.
Why is that?
Because there's only two reasons. They are afraid of being told no by a perfect stranger. Ridiculous. Fear of rejection. It's a real thing.
Yep.
Or they are so afraid of the unknown outcome that they choose to do nothing.
Yes.
And those are real psychological battles that human beings fight. And I do my best to help break people out of them just by giving them the examples of what me or my agents are doing. But that fear of the unknown is a real thing. And so people will sit in a situation they don't want to be in rather than step into an unknown and see what happens. And that fear kills more goals than any other thing.
The fear, for sure. They're fearful of the rejection. I also think that my experience is, like, I love open houses, right? It's a whole marketing thought process, which you've taught about. The funny thing about open houses, though, is that if you got into the business during COVID or later, most people actually don't know how to do an open house. They're not trained properly. I do a lot of promotion for open houses, and I'm amazed at the agents that literally don't do a flyer, don't do promotion, don't talk about it on social media until the day of, and then they wonder why
nobody's there.
Nobody shows up. Or they do, in my opinion, all the wrong kind of promotion, and then the day of the event, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
There's no discussion. Whatever it is that you're going to promote, but a lot of them think they can share it once and everybody's going to love the house, so they're all going to come. Yeah. And you really have to do a lot of basic things to get people to go to your open house. And so I feel like people just don't have they haven't been taught. They don't know that what they're doing. One post on social media, you all, is not enough to generate traffic at an open house.
And it's interesting too, because most people think of an open house as a singular event.
Yes.
I'm going to show up a few hours before. I'm going to throw out some signs. I'm going to stand here for 3 hours. That is the event.
Yes.
An open house is an entire marketing strategy in and of itself.
Yes.
You promote the house, sure, but you promote your own business. You build your own brand if you're doing it right. You're not just popping a sign up. You're not just throwing a flyer on your own Facebook profile. You're marketing it into Facebook Marketplace, into Facebook groups, into your local community groups. There are so many ways that you build your own brand through the open house marketing. It's not just, I'm going to stand here for a few hours and hope for the best because I threw some signs out this morning.
I did
a course on open house.
I did one this weekend, and I'll give a shout out to Gabriella. It was so well thought out, including the check-in process and how you communicate with them and the conversations that you have. And huge shout out to her for, you could tell she had planned this out. This wasn't a singular event. She had planned out the marketing. She knew what she was going to do after that. And so it was really well thought out. And then I've done some, not recently, but maybe 6 months ago, where the agent just didn't think anything through. And the only promotion that got done was mine. Well, that's okay. We had some traffic, but they were thinking singular instead of long-term. And you're right. I think a lot of people need to be either taught or retaught the power of an open house and what that means.
100%. And then the follow-up is super critical, regardless of what you're doing. Even at an open house, right? People, again, singular event. Whatever happens at the open house happens at the open house. Yeah. And then I'm done. I'm on to the next thing.
Correct.
The ability to properly capture lead data and have a genuine conversation at the open house to start building the relationship so that you can then go follow up consistently with those buyers that are unrepresented and add value to them. It is not a singular event.
It's not. And so I would encourage people to think of it differently. I have brokers and team leads who actually discourage their people from open houses because in their minds, it's a waste of time. And they don't see it as a long-term brand building, business building, sphere building something that they can do as part of the plan.
It's funny how many brokers, and I'm not picking on brokers, this again, human psychology, brokers are humans. They would rather sit comfortably in failure than step out into unknown. I'm going to give you a real world example. I was having this conversation today with one of my agents in my challenge. One of the things we teach our agents in our challenge is to market other agents' listings, to build relationships with the agents, to generate buyers that we can bring to the table, to close great business with our colleagues. I don't care what brokerage they're at. You got a great listing. I would love to bring a buyer. Let's work together. Super simple.
Yes.
And there are brokers who will default to, I don't want you to do that, simply because they don't understand the strategy. They don't understand how it helps the brokerage grow, because we're out here closing deals. And rather than try something new that they've never done, they would default to, I don't want you to do that. I don't know about it, therefore don't.
Correct.
It's a weird mentality, but it's not just agents. It's not just lenders. It's not just brokers. It's human nature. We fear the unknown and we don't take action. So I was explaining to that agent how to go give some clarity to their broker on where the benefit lies for the brokerage, right? Because they're just not thinking that way. Right? This is an agent proactively doing something that nobody else is doing in their market, which generates revenue for the brokerage.
Right.
Why would you tell your agent not to make money for the brokerage?
I don't know, but that's a theme that I come across a lot. Like when I'm coaching realtors, most of the time their biggest pushback is from their team lead or their brokerage.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with the fact, I'm just like you said, I think the broker doesn't know it or fears it or doesn't understand it. And so instead of embracing it and trying to learn more about it, they push them away and try to put them into something that's in their comfort zone.
Their default answer is no.
Correct.
We were talking about that. Actually, someone else on the call had brought it up. But basically, it's like, listen, you're a 1099 employee. You are an independent contractor. You're running your own business. If your brokerage isn't aligned with your growth, that's a problem.
Right.
You need to give that some thought. So it was a whole crescendo of thought processes on how we educate our brokers on what's new, what works in this market. You know, the thing that worked 5 years ago might not be the thing that gets the deal closed now, right? There's a lot of things that have changed in the market.
Yes. Yeah, a ton. I mean, it's,
really.
Back to what you were talking about, though, the market is active. So there are ways to do things and tap into areas that you haven't tapped into before. And you have to get past the fear part, which at the end of the day is just literally mindset, you all. It's mindset. And just because a stranger tells you no doesn't mean your life is over and you're a terrible agent.
Yep. And here's the fun part about this for anyone who's listening and they're like, that's me. Like, I'm afraid to make a call or I'm afraid to have a conversation. I'm afraid to be told no. If you reach out to somebody and you try to genuinely offer value, and they say, no, thank you, I don't want the value you're offering. Two things. One, that's a them problem, not a you problem.
Right.
You try to give away value. You can't give it to someone who won't receive it. That's a them problem, not a you problem. Two, you are never going to interact with that person again where they were like, are you the person 3 weeks ago that called me for 15 seconds and I recognize your voice from... It's not going to happen. It's absolutely not going to happen. So offer the value. It's on them to take it. If they don't want the value, that's fine. Go reach out to somebody else you can help.
Plenty of people.
Don't take it personally. Don't let it drag you down. You can only give away value to someone who's willing to receive it.
That's correct. All right. Well, tell them the best way they can find you. How can they learn more about all of the good things?
Just Google Walt Key Realtor. You'll find me. The link trees across the bottom. That's the best way. I'll be the only schmuck in a Hawaiian shirt with the name Realtor next to him. You'll find me.
Awesome show today. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, my friend. If you guys have questions for us, want to talk about something, shoot me a message, shoot Walt a message, get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you. And we'll be back next week with all of those reports we talked about today and talk about that. But seriously, if you have any questions, we're both open books. We'd love to help you. All right, my friend. Thank you so much. Guys, we'll see you next